Alrighty, mate. Well, after spending a bit of time together this morning, having a couple of AG1s, my everyday health drink, yours too, get to now sit down and talk a few things high performance, really quick, really short and sharp, just to get an insight into your head, which I'm pretty excited about. Mate, how are you? Big couple of days, last few days?
Good, yeah. No, it's been amazing. You know, watching the contest here at Snapper was amazing to have Steph win, come back after a couple of years off, and you know, she hadn't made a heat yet, and then she goes on to win an event is amazing. And then, you know, personal favourite of mine, Ethan Ewing, you know, a huge win at home, really starting to set up his year going into the, you know, chasing that maiden world title for him.
So cool, all Aussie men final, hey?
So good, even though it kind of flies under the Japanese flag now, he's still, you know, you listen to his interviews, he's more Australian than Japanese.
From Cronulla, he's pretty Aussie. Yeah. Mate, it's really cool having you on the show. Now, we're down here, southeast Queensland. Right in saying southeast Queensland?
Yeah.
Yep.
Southern Gold Coast.
Yeah, Southern Gold Coast. Palm Valley. So, project you're involved in is going to be, you know, not far from here. You've got some of the best waves in the world right on your doorstep. Something I just had to ask you. You're going to have now the best of both, right? The best of soon-to-be man-made, some of the best ocean waves in the world. Imagine you're a 12-year-old surfer and Palm Valley's just been built and you've got the choice of that. How do you split your time and how are you choosing what wave to surf?
Oh, it's crazy, yeah. We're lucky in the sense, like, from, you know, one of the best waves in the world at Snapper Rocks up to Palm Valley. It's going to be 40 minutes, you know, 40-minute drive. And yeah, look, I think ocean will always be the top shelf, but, you know, for kids, knowing that they're going to get the wave they want is going to be crazy. So, yeah, I'm so excited. Like, I sort of just think about it with my family, you know, come Friday and it's going to be bad winds or something at the beach. It's like, let's just go up to the wave pool for a few days and just go surfing. And yeah, it's always offshore at the pool.
Yeah, always offshore. It's going to be so cool. What do you reckon that's going to do for surfing? Like that next gen of surfers that does have access, you know, places that traditionally doesn't have as good surf, but might have this type of technology coming in. Surely, you know, what we're going to see in 10, maybe even less years time, 10, 15 years time is going to be incredible, right?
Oh, for sure. Like we've seen, like in the last 10 years of, you know, the introduction of wave pools and what they've done for the performance level of surfing, you know, going out and getting those reps of the same section to be able to do the same air and just perfect that and then take that to the ocean is incredible. What we have a little bit different here at Palm Valley is that we have some of the best waves in the world at the southern end of the Gold Coast and the northern end of the Gold Coast. You can be in the pool and then at Stratty within 15 minutes. So that's, and put that training in real time. I think that's incredible. But then also too, you know, they could be surfing a point and practicing their calves and then go up to the pool and practice airs, or, you know, and have that real live feedback, which you don't get in surfing that much, but we can have that real live controlled feedback, you know, right there with the performance center, with gym, recovery, all those different things that are in high performance centers now, right there within, you know, 10 minutes of the surf.
So you'll have that. Will you also have the ability to catch the wave and then jump out, watch the wave straight away? So if you're like training and then see, oh, that's how you're moving your body there, and you can get straight back in, get another wave the same way and just deliver on it?
Oh, for sure. Like even, you know, they'll be able to catch the wave and be paddling back up, you know, and because the technology that we're using in endless surf is so quiet, where you can actually talk, you know, from the side of the wall and to the paddle out. So I'll be able to watch it as they're paddling back out and want to be able to change different things here and there.
So you can see yourself on the big screen almost.
Yeah. It's gonna be loony. Like, you know, the closest things that we've had to that is having the big screen in the competition, and you kick out of your wave and you're sort of paddling back up and you're like, was it a good wave or not? And, you know, you get the score while you're watching your footage as you're paddling back up, and you're like, all right, I'm going to change that the next wave or something like that. But, you know, when you've got that controlled environment and the controlled wave, you can really make those changes fast without having to wait for the right wave or fight through a crowd.
It is going to be so cool. But you did just mention there, and something that just a question I really wanted to ask you. I've always wanted to ask you, but you are paddling out, you're out there by yourself. But can you just take us to that moment? Say you're in a big heat back in the day, big heat or final, you're out the back, you've got priority, and a set starts coming on the horizon. You might be in one of these world-class breaks that you've got to yourself and one other. And you know you've got to get a score, you might be ahead, but you know your competitor's right behind you, and you start seeing this set roll in. What's going through your head at that point?
Oh, it's just game face, really. It's, first and foremost, you want to sort of try and look for little keys that you pick the wave that you know is going to give you the best opportunity. And then on top of that, it's sort of like, everyone talks about, oh, you're going to go and surf these incredible waves by yourself, but you sort of put that feeling, it's a secondary thing. First and foremost, when you're involved in the event, it's like, I want to win this heat and I want to put on the best performance I possibly can. So that's the key thing, is just picking the right wave and then just being ready, being calm enough and clear-minded enough to, when you paddle in, that you just perform and just react rather than think.
So you want to paddle in with a clear mind, not thinking I have to do this on the wave. You want to be open to interpreting the wave as it plays out?
Sometimes. It all depends. Like, you sort of have a bit of a game plan on how you want to surf a wave. Like, say, J-Bay, for instance, there's a few different places where the wave will slow up and go fast. And so you just got to have those little key moments where you're like, all right, I'll do a turn here, but then I'll miss this section so I don't stuff up the rest of the wave down here, and keep your timing. But a lot of it is just making sure that you want to switch the brain off, and those milliseconds when you are going to the lip or into that section, you make your turn selection on the way up.
How do you switch the brain off? Is it like a reps thing? And when I say reps, obviously everyone on the tour or at top level surfed a million waves, like truckloads of waves. But being able to turn off, is that just surfing a lot of competition? Is surfing lots of comps beneficial, or to build that mindset, that preparation?
It's a two-pronged answer, really. It's first, like, everyone wants to get to that flow state, or the zone, or where things just happen. You're not thinking and you're just sort of floating through life. That's probably the one that you want to be in. The other one is, especially for surfing, there's so much going on in the water, but there's always something going on the beach, and being able to switch whatever else is going off over here and just focus on what is happening out in the water is definitely a difficult one that in surfing you don't get taught. There's no rules around training. There's no rules of, when you cross that white line, you're on your own a lot of the time. And so, keeping your head in the game is definitely it's a practice and a process.
Is that, in your experience, the difference? Like, it's probably similar to golf, right? Very individual sport in the sense that it's just you out in the ocean, or it's just you swinging the golf club. Is that the difference, just between the two ears at that point? I mean, God, you go here and you watch Snapper, and it seems like every second guy and girl could be a pro surfer. So that difference of the top level, and is that how you see it?
I think like what happens between the ears is probably that last 1-2% difference between making it and not making it. There's for me, I'm not as talented as probably some other guys, but I worked so hard on what was going on in my brain and being practice those different processes that, when the pressure did build, I was able to be calm in that situation, where other people just freak out. They might, freeze up, or they might freak out. So I think that, what's between the ears is that last 1-2%. I think everything else that comes with it is, you've got to have talent. You got to work hard and all those kind of things. But yeah, I think the brain is probably the sharpest 1-2% that you need.
And I heard you speak on Straight Talk with Mark Bouris, and you talked about preparing every, what would you call it, competition potential day. So whether it was a lay day coming up or not, you would prepare the night before, like surf was going to be on. Is that how was that always the case, or you hit a lick that you were like, this works for me, and this is how I can surf my best the next day, preparing that same way?
Yeah, I sort of like, it was a lot of trial and error. You know, there was years, you know, when I first got on tour, you know, I'm 20, I'm traveling the world and with my best mates and, you know, just having an absolute ball.
What could go wrong?
Yeah. What could go right? Like it. And you know, it was before the days of coaches, before the days of entourages and all that kind of stuff. And so a lot of trial and error. And then, you know, when I did have time, when I first got injured in 2004, I had time to sort of go back and go through these events and see what did work for me and what didn't work for me. And a lot of it was the preparation key. It was, okay, when I put time into myself rather than fluffing around, you know, being an idiot, then that's when I'd find my best results, when I, you know, really nailed down on exactly my goals and my, you know, making sure that my performance came first after everything else. That was when I seemed to get my most success. So it does take time. Not everyone's like that. Like, you know, my best mate Parker, I grew up surfing with him the whole time. The more fun he had, the better he goes. And so, you know, we're talking about like just what goes on between the years. Like, if he got serious and started stressing out, he would lock up. Where if I do that, I'm so so all over the place, I can't get it back together. So everyone is indifferent, and you just have to find what works for you. And for me, preparation was a huge one.
Yeah. Have you thought about the difference between like preparation or routine versus like a superstition?
Yes, very much so, yeah.
What's your take on it?
I think when you're young and you don't have your set routine, that's when the superstition comes into it. And then once you start breaking all that down, it's not necessarily the superstition of using the same wax or the superstition of, you know, riding the same board or something like that. It's actually the preparation is there that you've got that same wax. You haven't lost it down the beach, or you haven't just, you know, haven't looked after this board that it's broken and you can't frickin', you know, get it to work again. So for me, it was like, I used to have a backpack that was just for competition days.
Go bag.
Yeah. And so it was, yeah, like in your sport, you know what time you're running across on the line and onto the field. For us, it's so all over the place. It could be Saturday at 7 a.m. or it could be Sunday at 4 p.m. But you don't know that until that time actually comes. So for me, having everything ready in a sense that it was, whenever I got called, I had a 30-minute routine that I could get sorted, get to the beach, and feel comfortable in what I was about to do.
And that's the routine part of it. That's not a superstition.
No,
that's your preparation.
Yeah. And I think also too, like, at start it was superstition because it started going really well. But then I realized when it didn't happen, because I had done the work previously, it was easier to switch back into that without having to do the full routine. Like maybe sometimes I only had 10 minutes or, so yeah, it was just, you know, putting it on a piece on paper and saying, is it make-believe or is it actually real?
That's cool. I hadn't thought of the things start out as a superstition and develop into a routine? Because that's now thinking about it when you're talking, I'm like, oh, that's actually probably what I do. Whereas I've sort of separated them, thinking that routines like I'll do this and it'll give me the best possible opportunity to perform well. Superstition is more of a feeling like if I don't do this, something's going to go wrong. Mm-hmm. And they're quite different, aren't they? But I haven't thought of that nice transition that, yeah, probably the things that I did started out as something that worked, prepared me nicely, and then became a routine.
Yeah, it's like waking up, having a real hot shower or something in the morning. Even though you worked maybe when you were younger, you realise that it was something that actually got your body right, warmed up and ready to stretch or flowing properly. But because you started out as one day as I'm just going to do this and then I'm going to keep doing it through this event or through this series, you think, oh, it's just superstition. But it's actually, there are truths to all the different things that you do. It's just about navigating what is superstition and what, kissing your door handle on the way out. It's not going to matter how you perform that day. It's just up in your ears.
I had this, I'd wear the same budgies for a season. It was like almost, I'd obviously wash them, of course, but each game I'd have the same set of budgies. And it's not like a superstition. If I didn't have them, which happened, it wasn't like I was going to perform poorly. It was just a way of setting you up that everything, was in shape. So flicking then to when things didn't work out. So, you've had significant things of adversity, but let's talk about some of the little things. Like say you were going, you had 10 minutes an opportunity to turn up, whereas usually like 30. Or you don't think the surf was going to be on and all of a sudden it's called. How did you deal, or your board snaps, or your boards didn't make it past Joburg Airport, like how loose that can be sometimes. How did you deal with that?
Look, in the early days, it would rattle me. And the reason why it would rattle me is because I hadn't done the work in the lead up to it. I was sort of, those early days was just sort of performing on instinct and sort of immaturity. And then as I got, deeper into my career, because I was so well prepared before the event, it didn't rattle me whatsoever. It was just like, okay, it's on. And that's how I would just keep moving. Break a board, it happens. You make sure you've done the work that your second, third and fourth board at a level that you're extremely happy with. And so you break a board, just grab the next one, just keep going. And, I guess sort of think of it, with your rugby ball, you're not going to be using that same ball the whole game. Like, you're not going to chase it into the crowd just so you can do that same line out or something like that. You just change it. It's the same thing. It's just, you just got to, you just roll with it. And but I think the preparation before all the shit hits the fan is what keeps you calm in the moment.
I've heard you say you fake it till you make it, right? We had
sometimes
we spoke to Angus Crichton. He goes, look, I want to turn up on Saturday if he's playing on a Saturday and feel fit, fast and strong. That's how he knows when he turns up, he's ready to go. And then when he didn't feel fit, fast and strong, he would work out a way to make sure he felt fit, fast and strong, even if it was just by faking it till you make it. Is that something that you did? What did it look like when you turned up and you're like, hey, I'm absolutely on today?
Look, for mine was my sort of feeling that I wanted to be was calm and confident. And so, there were many a times where I woke up and I didn't feel calm or didn't feel confident. And the way I sort of changed that mindset was, doing a warm-up routine or, talking myself through boards or equipment or watching some footage or something like that, and realizing that the work had been done. So some days you always try and wake up 100%, but some days you're not. Some days you might be sick, or some days you might be, behind the eight ball because of, sponsorship engagements or all these different things. And so, those things were like, you just, how would you say it? You'd fake it in the sense that you'd almost bluff the man in the mirror. and then, yeah, you know,
Turn it into a challenge almost. Can I get myself right here?
Yeah, or even just walking in the competitors area and just have your head high and your shoulders back, and people will be like, "Oh fuck, he's on today," and deep down, like, and you get these glances, and you're like, "Yeah, I fucking fooled you." Like, you know, these different things. Like, you, like, I used to have this thing where walk into like the competitors area, and I would like mentally like throw confidence there in that corner, throw confidence in there in that corner, and you know, sort of surround myself in my own confidence. No one would ever know, and there's nothing to it. But I know if I ever turned and I wasn't confident, I'd be like, oh, I've got confidence there, I can drag from there or there. And it was just mind games.
How do you stay calm and confident when anyone who's had a night near the ocean, and you can hear it when it's big, and you can hear the waves coming in, and you surf in some of the most hectic places in the world, like serious waves of consequence, and you know it's going to be on the next morning. How do you project calm and confidence there, or are you like, I could get the wave of my life here in competition? How did you approach those days? And I'm sure there were those type of days.
Oh, 100%. I don't think I've ever had a good sleep in Tahiti. Even when it's flat, it sounds ginormous.
Really?
And it's terrifying. And you're trying to sleep, and you know, a wave will crash, or the high tide will come up and it'll be lapping on the shore, and it sounds like, you know, 1,000-foot bomb is breaking.
Wow.
You know, and it's terrifying. And so you wake up every day just anxiety, and you paddle out, and when it is huge, it's like, fuck, am I ready for this? And it sort of goes back to, you know, a lot of the mornings when it was huge, it was like, all right, just get out, just catch a wave, just feel it, just feel the ocean, see how fast it's moving and all that kind of stuff. And then it was go home and do your routine. And once again, sort of build that confidence up throughout your routine, and then just have a checklist of, all right, I've done the work, I have the skill to do this, now just trust your ability.
With that sort of, you know, you talk so much about what you have to take on your shoulders there, and in my world, supported by teams the whole time. You're around the team the whole time. Yes, you're performing individually, but you're around teams. I've been interested, does that show up in surfing? And, you know, tell me if I'm off here, but, you know, we caught up 2015, we're at the Rip Curl House, and you're living with competitors who are going to be surfing against you, but you are kind of a team within a sponsorship. And then for so much of your time on the tour as well, you had your best mate, and then a strong Aussie patriotic contingent that was there and winning a lot. Was there ever felt like a team dynamic in the sport that you do?
Yeah, there's like, I guess, you know, that camaraderie, especially in those early years. You know, we had a really strong Aussie camaraderie, and, you know, it's probably led by Nathan Hedge in the sense where he's just such a frother. And he would be there, Aussie flags. He would be there screaming every Aussie,
Australia.
Come on, yeah, he was just so patriotic. And that all sucked us all in, and we all started, like, you know, believing in that. And, you know, we're all there for each other. Even though we might have been in different friend groups, we would all come together and support as Australians. And you know, when you are running out for a heat and you see your peers and your competitors and your heroes, they're cheering you on, it's just like, oh, it's so on. You know, I'm going to do it for the boys, or, you know, do it for the country and stuff like that. And then it sort of got a little bit lost. You know, there was sort of more money came into surfing, and then entourages started coming around, and surfers almost got isolated in their own little groups, and we sort of lost that camaraderie. And we're just starting to see that come back now, because I think the Brazilian Storm have come and just dominated the world titles for so long, and everyone's trying to figure out how to beat them. And they know that if they do it collectively, they can learn a lot more and speed up that process. And I think that's something that is starting to, really show results. Especially, you know, I think that's the first Aussie final.
So good.
For so long. But then for I can't even remember the last time Aussies went back to back on the world tour. Like, it's been a long time.
We had this saying, when you train hard and then you'd play, the training was like steel on steel. So if you're training hard against each other, like steel on steel makes really, really hard steel. And it's kind of what you grew up in, right? Like, there was amazing surfers everywhere. And some of the best surfers in the world were here. And you were competing with them and against them at a young age. That must have, a tribute to where you've gotten to as a surfer.
Oh, for sure. Look, I would not be anywhere near the surfer I am if I didn't grow up with my best mates in Parko and Dean Morrison, and having them as my benchmark. Like, and we went from juniors to winning world tour events to all being in the top 10 in the world. Like, to have 3 kids from the same town, same school, all do that together. And like, a lot of the time I didn't give a shit about like where I was in the rankings, as long as I beat them.
Yeah. And they were right up the top, so even better.
When Parker's getting number 2 in the world, it's like, well, shit, I have to be number 1 so I can beat him. And that was our benchmark, and we'd leapfrog each other. And we got to a point where it just, it took us to the top of the world. And I think that's probably the other thing is when, even with the older crew that we had, like, we had peers in Occy, Luke Egan, spoke about Hedgie, Mick Lowe, like these guys were winning events, and we were so lucky enough that they took us under our wing. So we'd try and beat each other as kids, but then also we felt comfortable enough with these guys. Like, all right, it's okay if I try and beat my hero,
So you mentioned some really cool names there and some throwback names, and you've now moved out. Definitely not a throwback name yet, but
pretty old.
I don't, mate. We saw you surfing out there in the comp yesterday, the board riders. So that was pretty cool. But the transition away, right? So you saw those guys you talked about. They would have transitioned out when you were right in the thick of it. Now you're 8 years probably from fully competitively retired.
Yeah.
About 8 years. A lot of my mates are going through that. I've sort of moved away from rugby myself. How have you found that? And what's been important for you and the crew that you're seeing as being important, moving away from something when you're running so hard at a certain goal, like trying to be the best in the world?
Yeah, look, it is hard. It's I guess I was the lucky one in the sense that I still have sponsors, I still have commitments, and I'm still busy away from the surfing world, but probably the biggest thing was you are week in, week out, you're getting judged, and you're getting judged on your performance, and so it was like a benchmark. It's like, all right, I'm going to better myself that 0.5% or 1% each and every time, and I think that's where sporting people, once they step away, it's like, who's judging me? Or where do I sit in the world? Because I don't. Yeah. And that's the hardest thing. But it's probably even harder in your sport or team sports where you go and you have the change room, or you have the group text that you're on, and all these different things. But it's a really scary thing, and no one prepares you for that. They prepare you to be the best in the world at your sport. I don't think anyone's come into the locker room and said, this is what's going to happen afterwards.
You ran so hard at trying to be the best in the world for so long, and you've just had this comp here in the last couple of days. Do you ever watch waves and think, ooh, I could score this on that? Or do you ever is there 5 minutes of the competition going, oh, could I still mix it? Or are you so far out of it that you're like, you are happy where you are?
Yeah, look, I think in those first couple of years when you come off, you're like, oh, I could have done that, I could have done that. and then like for me, I did a couple of wild cards, and it just reminded me why I stood away. Like, I didn't go away because I didn't feel like I couldn't compete. I stood away because I lost the fire to compete. And so when all those anxieties of, well, the wave's going to be like 1 hour how am I going to perform? Am I going to be up to standard? All those things. When I did those wildcards, all those feelings came back, and I was like, I actually don't like this. And so for me, if I ever think about like thinking, oh, I could go and compete with this or that, I actually just remind myself, you don't want that feeling. And so I'm okay. I love watching the new crop come through, and I'm just happy going surfing when I get told to go, when I tell myself to go surfing rather than someone tell me to go.
Yeah, it's pretty cool though. It must be nice knowing that you were done, right? There wasn't a period where you're like, yeah, am I done? You know, I'm sure that there was times where through your career, like, I'm out of this, but to have that realization, and you say lose the fire, I could certainly see it in my friends and myself. When you lose the dog, like the dog to go and, you know, get after it, and you want to do all those things that it takes to succeed or try and perform really well, you lose that, it's not worth it.
No, and I think that was probably something that, you know, I had half a year off in 2016, and I came back in 2017 just to answer those questions, to go, am I still willing to do all this? Am I still excited by all this? And I was taking shortcuts, and I knew deep down that wasn't right, but I didn't have the desire or the dog to go, no, you've got to do that extra lift, or you got to do that extra wave or something like that. I was like, yeah, I'm fucking done.
Yeah, you're done. You're out.
Good.
Yeah, and that's nice.
Yeah, and I think a real key moment for me too was, like, you know, my very last event at Bells. You know, I had a lot of fun in the event, and I made the final, and I got second. And Ilo Ferreira, who won it, his emotion for winning his very first ever event, he's crying and stuff out in the lineup, and I felt nothing. I'm just like, and that's when I knew, I was like, I've made the right decision.
The South Americans do love a good cry, though. I mean, playing against a lot of the Argentinians, you know, the national anthem.
Yeah. I've cried after a win.
There's nothing wrong with it. But mate, it's funny. You'd stand across and the Argentinians to sing their anthem, bawling their eyes out, and the Australians to sing their proud. But it's, you know, that group, they certainly love a good cry. But there's nothing wrong with that. No. I'll ask this one last question. You're 44 now. Mm-hmm. If you had whatever wave you wanted to surf in the world, but you've got to surf it three ways. One is you've got to surf it like you're surfing in a comp. The second is you've got to surf it like you're trying to make a film piece. And the last is no one's watching. Would you surf them any different?
You'd want to say no, but you do. Yeah, look, I think, you know, you surfing competitions, it's so intense. Like, you're pushing that extra 5-10%, and, you know, the blood's everywhere going nuts. And then when you're surfing the film piece, it's about just one or two big key moments, and then surfing like no one's watching, it's probably the same as the film piece.
Yeah.
It's that feeling of one of those one or two key moments. That's what you can sort of rest your hat on.
Mick, thank you for coming on the show. Thanks for spending the morning. I could sit here and talk to you for so long, but we've only got so much battery. But mate, I really appreciate your time.
Thanks for
having
me, brother. Cheers.
Thanks, mate.